All right. Well, we're going to do text day, or did we do this last week? Am I out of sorts here?
We had text 8.
We did it.
No, we were supposed to do them.
All right. So let's start on text day here. This is for section right after section 123. Now we'll get. So when they finish this, we'll go right over to the deponent verbs that we were talking about last week. Right. Benjamin,
Okay.
can you take this first sentence here for us, please?
Sure. Ha Jesus en or ein entois Hierosulumos ente eorte. I said Jesus was in Jerusalem in the feast.
Okay. That could be translated at the feast or in the feast, either way. All right. And so he was being, and so here's our being verb. Okay, now what are we covering here? We're covering pronouns, right?
Right.
That's primarily what we're doing. And so in the, I don't see a one there for us, okay? Right? All right. This one down to here. Now we got this on there. Okay, if you would,
Okay.
Bobby, please.
Okay. Hoi eu de oi is from Mazon Perites didakes autou. The Jews wondered about his teaching.
Okay. What is this? Can you conjugate it for me?
Well, you got the Jews, it's the noun, nominative, plural, masculine, and then you have wondered. It's an imperfect, active, indicative, third person.
Okay. So the imperfect tense, what you want to do is probably translate it as were wondering or wondering.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Concerning the teaching, two would be what?
His, of him.
Of him. And so be his teaching, say, of him. All right.
So you used the word concerning, right?
Concerning,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
relating to.
I said marveling about.
Out is good. Okay. All right, Benjamin, we'll take this next one.
Yes, sir. Ha Jesus lege autois eme didake uk estin eme. Jesus says to them, my teaching is not mine.
All right. Now, he says to them, that's dative, the teaching of me, my teaching is not mine. Now, these are emphatic forms here. And so let's go up to them here. This right here is feminine because it's modifying a feminine noun. It's got a feminine article. And so it's from right here. My teaching right here from this pronoun is not mine. And so what does it mean? It's not mine. It must be what?
The world.
Must be someone else's teaching.
The Father of the Father.
See, I think. So he's saying, I got this from the Father. That's probably, this is probably pretty much out of the text. Sometimes he actually takes a passage of scripture for us. Okay. Right? And he does that. And later in the book, we'll just be taking verses of scripture toward the end of the book. Right? Okay, Bobby, can you take the next one?
Lelo uk apo auto. I speak not from myself.
Okay, now what can you say about ego in there? Ego lalo.
Well, it'd be I speak.
And so it's emphatic.
Right.
Anytime ego is in ego or the plural form, hemes, okay, is there, it is automatically emphatic because the verb already has its pronoun on the end. That mega is ending a verb, a pronoun rather, I'm sorry, already has its subject identified. And from a moo, right, from, that was one of our words in our vocabulary, I think, yes, right here.
Yes. Myself.
Remember, this doesn't have a nominative form.
Right.
So if we go back up to it, I'll remind you of that. That's something you kind of trip your toe over if you're not careful. Doesn't have, it has genitive active, but it doesn't have a nominative form. A reflexive pronoun, there's no nominative form. Okay? And right here as well. Okay? That your second person doesn't either. All right, and he tells us that here somewhere. I don't know. I'll have to look it up, but he tells you that if you're reading the text somewhere in it, okay? All right. But it doesn't have a nominative form. So in the lexicon, it'll be listed in this form right here. The genitive form is the listing right here. That'll be your listing in your lexicons. Right? And also in our vocabulary at the end of the material. All right, let me see here. So that's there. All right. Let's try. Now, what is that semicolon after increased?
It's a question.
So
Question.
Question. Now, keep this in mind. We don't have a word here, a pronoun that would, or an adjective or an adverb that will tell us it's a question. So, if you haven't looked at it in the text of the Bible, it is the opinion of the compilers of the Greek text, the ones that put the Greek text together. And they put it together from various manuscripts, okay? So keep in mind, that's an interpretation. We do have some words that indicate they're adverbs, and we have some pronouns that are interrogative. And so they introduce a question, such as why or what and so forth, okay? So that will tell you it's a question automatically. But they're interpreting this to be a question, and that might be a contextual problem. They could be wrong. All right, so let's go ahead and do it if you will.
Okay. Ha oklos erota utos estin o Christos. I said the crowd was asking, is this the Christ?
Okay. All right. Is this the Christ? Now, if they had an "u" with it, and the coppa is there because it's got a vowel after it, okay? Oh, but "u" is your basic word. If they had an "u" with it, they would have been saying, this is the Christ, is it not? Okay. If they had "may," I don't know, have we introduced "may" yet? I think we have. Let me put it over here. We had this negative after it. I'm teaching three groups in Greek. And so I think we've already had this for a negative. Okay. Have we? Do you remember?
Yes.
Okay. If we had may with a question, it expects a no answer. Okay. So keep that in mind. That would expect a no answer.
Mhm.
So how would you say that with may?
It is, if it had May in here, let me see. Damn it.
You said "ug" would be this is the Christ, is it not?
Yes. This is not the Christ, is it? That would be May.
This is the Christ, is it? Okay.
Would say it in English. Okay. Is that clear? That better?
Thank you.
Right now, the file that I have, I sent you an updated file just about 2 minutes before class started. I sent you one about 20 minutes before. I added a couple of things to it, so I'm gonna keep that in mind. So take the last file.
Okay.
Not that there's anything wrong with it, I just added some more to it. Okay. All right, any questions? Bobby, can you take this next one? I didn't get to epsilon in the highlighting, but.
Okay, I got you. Let's see. Make sure I'm getting the right one. Ek tu aklu poiloi epistuon es auton. From many from the crowd were believing in him.
Believing him. See, you translated it good on that one, or believing, because that is imperfect. See, it's durative action, right? And we had the aorist tense yet.
No, sir.
It won't be durative action.
Well, looking at all of these, that first one was the only one I done that way. The rest of them were with the ing on it for some reason.
Okay. Well, just kind of get in the habit of it, and you'll be fine. You guys have done well, both of you. Okay. Benjamin, could you take the next one?
Un Jesus tada lege eti chronon mikron methumon emi. Therefore, Jesus speaks these things, yet little time I am with you.
This is where Jesus speaks these things. And so this is an older form of our pronouns. It's an older pronoun. These are found maybe 15 or 20 times, these older ones in the whole New Testament. So they're pretty rare, okay? But he put it in there. I think we had it up here in our vocabulary somewhere. I think he introduced it. Can't remember. Somewhere up here he introduced them. See if I can find them. I'm sure he did, because he has it in the text. There it is, right here. Now what you can do, I have the file that I sent you, and I'll send it to you after class again, just to be sure I send it to you. But I have all of the forms of these in the file. I've forgotten the name of the file, but I'll send it to you. And it has all of these declined all the way, okay? All has the form, some form. Many of them aren't even in the New Testament. If you were reading some other material, the other literature, for example, you might find it in them, like the Septuagint or something like that, okay? I'll just go ahead and give that to you. I've already made the file, so, and I sent it to you earlier. We did this one down here. You did right here, didn't you?
Yeah.
Through a me.
Okay. Oi he hudeoi leg usi pros ealtus po utas mele balain. The Jews were saying among themselves, I put, where is this about to go? I didn't put a smooth one. The Jews were saying.
Is this one about to go?
One, okay.
This person.
This one.
So this,
Right.
it's masculine gender. So it's probably, it may be kind of a spinoff whenever they said, is he going to go to the Gentiles or going to go to the Greeks? Okay, among the Greeks one time. Where I go, you can't come. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Where is this one about to go?
Right?
Ek tu oklu un ekuon ton logon tuton kai elegon utos estin alethos ho prophetes. I said, out of the crowd, therefore, they were hearing these words and were saying, this is truly the prophet.
Okay, this is truly the prophet. This they were hearing and they were saying. And they were saying here, they were hearing
And were saying, this is truly the prophet.
Okay, that's good. I'm looking for a epsilon with a circumflex so I can drop it up there. This is the, right here is the wrong diacritical mark. I'll fix that later, okay? Don't worry about it right now. Try to remember it. There it is. I'll drop it down there right now. I think that's got it fixed. Save it. So the file is fixed. Next time I send it out, it'll be okay. All right, this is true of the prophet. All right. Here, if you would, Bobby.
Alloy elegon hutas estin ho Christos. Others were saying, this is the Christ.
Okay. This one.
This one. Yeah, okay, I got you.
You might
Let's
put
see
the
it.
word one in there, but this is the Christ. It's literal.
This one is the Christ.
Now, others, alloy is, that's nominative plural, isn't it? So
Right.
from allos, what is the difference between allos and heteros?
Another.
The same.
Another of the same kind, allos.
Yep.
Alloy is.
Yeah, another
Alloy would be another of a different kind.
different kind.
Heteros is
Yep.
different. Think of heterosexual, and so it's got into the English language, particularly in biology and medical terminology. Okay. And so the prefix hetero has. Allo has got into biology a lot, things of the same nature, the same group. Any question there? There are some plants that give off chemicals that only allow their own kind to reproduce. They actually they stunt the growth of other stuff around them. And you knew that, didn't you? Although pathogens, I think, I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. I've done some research on it. I don't remember exactly the word. Although I think it's not a pathogen, but it's pathogenetic or something like that. But they will, and some of your thorns or thistles are that way. And so that's what makes them so bad in a garden. Going around your other plants, they stop the growth of other plants. Okay. So much for that. That's not great. I apologize, but it's an application of it. Right?
Sorry.
Who did the last one? Was it? I think it was.
Utas ectes Galileas estin. This man is from Galilee. This man. I'll put man. it's masculine. So.
But you did not the one I highlighted, but that's okay.
Oh, I thought I got that one.
You did the last one too.
oh, I'm sorry. Let me do that other one.
Can you do the one I got highlighted? He's already done the one after it.
I got Hoi de elegan ha Christos estin ek beleem tes comes hopu e daue. But they were saying the Christ is out of Bethlehem, the village where David was.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll remind you that common names sometimes have variant spellings in various manuscripts. Okay. And David is one of those that has some variant spellings. So what I've done with the word David in my lexicon that I've sent to you, I have the variant spellings that I found.
Okay.
From beside it. And I say variant spelling and I have it there. Okay. So be aware of that. If you run into it, just check it out. Okay. So be aware of that. All right. Bethlehem, you know what the word Bethlehem means? Bethlehem.
Beth is house.
Beth is house.
House of God.
And Lahaim is bread. It's house of bread.
That's bread.
House of bread.
Bread. Okay. I missed that.
House of bread. Bobby's already done this. Wave her hands over it. Go there. Take this one here if you would. Benjamin, please.
Ekenoi legusi diati uk agete auton. Why did y'all not bring him?
Right. Okay, why did you not bring him? Right. Never man so spake. Okay. That's almost. I'm thinking of a passage where they asked them. One of those men didn't bring Jesus, and they said, "Never man so spake." You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. These ones, Ikanos, that would be those. They spoke. Those they said. Why did you not bring him? Let me right here. I want to throw something in right here. A lot of times in your Greek manuscripts, for some strange reason, some of the copyists, where I've got the cursor flashing on the screen, you don't require a movable new after it. See, there's not a dia doesn't begin with a vowel or a diphthong. So normally you shouldn't put a new on the end of Lucy, Lucy. So, but some of the manuscripts do put it on there, and they put it on. I think they would need it. And this is when they talk about maybe tens or 20 or 50 or 100,000 variations in the manuscripts. A large percentage of them are movable news that are there in one manuscript but not in another one. Does that make sense? And it has absolutely no change in the meaning of the text. And they, some of them just did it as a stylistic thing more. And so the copyist added a new in here. It didn't change the meaning at all. And so they'll take 100 manuscripts and 50 of them got a movable new and 50 don't. I'll count that as 50 variations. I counted as one variation, counted 50 times. Okay. And they're not even honest in how they count their variations. All right, I'm sorry, I got off the subject. So these textual critics, I get kind of irritated out.
So is it, so those say, why did y'all not bring him? Is that right then?
Ikanos is those, and hutos is these. Let me see, do we have it up here? I think we do. Yeah. Kainos.
Yeah, those. It just seems like a really strange sentence to me in the context.
Those ones. Now, here's what you have to do now. You have to go into the context, because he may be, in this context, he may have just someone else, like the Pharisees. Then he says, those, he's been talking about the men who came back and they returned back to them. Something else is said in this verse here. So this is refer to the distant group of people rather than the nearest ones in that text in the preceding verse, preceding sentence. So you can single it out. Those refers to a distant object, and these refer to near objects. And so it's always in that context. Of course, it has to agree in gender, number, and case as well, too. So it has to have that gender and number as well. Particularly. So here, this may be exactly how it is in the text of the New Testament. I'm not certain. But it would be not the nearest group of people in that context, and probably in the prior sentence, back further away from that group. There's two groups being discussed. The last group that's discussed in this verse before, it will not be the ones that be the ones before. Okay. Does that help?
I lost on the.
Okay. All right, I'm going to move on unless there are further questions. Benjamin, what's your
Yeah, I've got a quote. You mean move on to the next lesson?
Yeah.
You mind if I ask a couple questions on the other sections?
There you go.
Number 5 on text B.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what it's saying. I said these were righteous, but their child was not.
These were being righteous, but not
Was their child?
the children of them were not being righteous, but not their children were being. And it's elliptical. Their children were not being righteous. And the children are out of place in the order. The child, this is a child. The child was not being righteous. Okay. So the children were not being righteous, but these were being right, but their children were not being right. Or not being. And the word righteous is kind of elliptical. Okay, they were not being righteous.
Okay. And number 8, I said, child, even you are always with me. And then the last part, I'm not even sure.
And okay,
What is mine is thine.
yeah, this is probably the prodigal son. Maybe right from it actually. Child, you always with me. You always have been with me. This is probably the elder brother. And it is being the things of me, you, they are. They are you, they're to you. So the things that I have are yours. That's probably a way of saying that. That might be right from that other prodigal son.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I like what you said, Bobby.
What did I say?
And what is mine is yours. Yeah.
Yeah. What is thine is mine is thine's the way I put it instead of yours.
The things, these, and that's neuter. Mine, and they are yours.
And that is mine. Is yours.
We can look up sign and see if that's in there, but I bet that might be right out of the text, out of the Bible. Sounds pretty much like it. But he may have reworded it a little bit because there may be some grammatical constructions we haven't covered yet. So he may have changed it slightly. Okay? I don't think that's wrong to do that for the sake of learning. Of course, I'm sure he wouldn't have changed the Bible itself.
And then the only last question I had was on the translate part. Number 1, it says, "Our teaching is not yours."
Okay.
And I said, "He metera didake uk estin hu metera." I'm not sure if that's right.
Say that again.
He metera didake uk estin hu metera.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Okay. So for the is not yours uk estin hu metera, or would it be uk estin se?
Not yours.
Or could it be either?
Could be either.
Estin hu tusu.
Could be singular or plural. Either one.
I see.
I use sus there.
Now let me tell you, fellas. King James and American Standard Versions, the words you, ye, and your are plural.
Right.
And the words, the singular would be thee, thou, and thine. And so, of course, you can look it up in the text. Someone told me that. I just started through. I found a book that said that. And I checked a whole bunch of them. Every time I run into one, I'll check it and see. And it's always that way. I've never found an exception to it.
Huh.
And so you can you can tell people if they want to know if something is singular or plural, even if they're using a modern speech translation, if they'll buy themselves just a good standard size print so they can read it, King James Bible, they can see whether it's singular or plural. The pronouns you, and your, and thee, and thou, and thine, and so forth. Okay.
Yeah, it reminds me of your body is temple of the Holy Spirit. Yours.
Yeah,
There.
plural. It's plural.
But in English, it's your, and a lot of people mistake it for your personal indwelling.
That's certainly true. But King James makes it clear for them. Right here, the demonstrative in Ephesians 2:8, a very important passage, is discussed, and the truth is taught by the Baptist scholar A.T. Robertson, page 708 of his book, Grammar of the New Testament Modern Historical Research. I put these notes in, added this to the book.
That's in volume 1 of the Holy Spirit.
Do both of you have my book, The Work of the Holy Spirit, volumes 1 and 2?
I'm reading through it right
Yes.
now, sir.
Okay, if you don't have it, let me know. Right. Okay. Deponent or defective verbs. This idea of deponency actually has fallen into disfavor in the last 15 or 20 years. We minimize this, change, stop sharing, reshare, and let's go to grammar notes. Right? Back over here and look at it. Can you see it now, the lexicon grammar notes?
Yes, sir.
Here's the file we looked at last week in Powers, and of course you can go to the bibliography at the end of this file. And the Powers grammar book, I'm looking at mine right now. His name is Ward Powers. Learn to Read the Greek New Testament by Ward Powers is the title of the book. The author is Ward Powers. Porter, I've got two books by Porter, and I can't remember which one this is, okay? But it was printed in 2005. I got two different dates of printing, page 70. And we went through this last week just a little bit. I added to this Kostenberger. It's a very recent one. It's an intermediate grammar book. And he has an extensive discussion of deponent verbs, and he shows why a bunch of them aren't deponent. Now, some of these later fellows are saying most of the verbs that are claimed to be deponent actually are middle voice. Some of them even say none of them are deponent. So it's saying, right? And they explain it. Wallace argues for a large number of them not being deponent, but he allows for a few of them being deponent, okay? But he has an extensive discussion in these 3 pages. He lists the number of verbs that are not deponent, and he makes several arguments for it. Let me give you a couple of their arguments. They argue this, that they can find that there's no active voice form in the writings of the scriptures. That would include the Septuagint, Greek translation of the Old Testament, and the New Testament. And some of them go so far as to say even writings of the church fathers. But Wallace and Kostenberger, I think it is, both of these have here and here. I think both of them do, but I remember one of them does at least. List some of those verbs that they found active voice forms in secular writings of that time. In other words, the active voice form did exist, and it was used in some of the secular writings. So they argue then that this being deponent doesn't have an active voice form is false because they found it in secular writings. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it didn't find it in the New Testament doesn't mean it's didn't exist. And then of course there's some of the verbs that the nature of the verb itself is reflexive, or it is such that it would fit the middle voice and wouldn't fit the active voice. Just the nature of the word itself force it to be. Right, here's a YouTube link, and you have this file. Deponent verbs, why we should stop talking about them and go migrate. This is a very recent information. He goes to the background and talks about how they've changed their mind since about 2010. So it's been the last 10, 12, 15 years that they've made some drastic changes. Books written before that will talk about deponent. Said a lot of them written after that don't talk about it, or they at least argue that most of the deponent verbs are not actually deponent. And some of them actually claim that it doesn't exist anymore. That's a change in this. So I don't know that it's good to talk about deponent. I think most of them, and Wallace argues for a bunch of them not being deponent, and he makes several arguments. Here's their argument that I think's a fallacious argument. I think the whole system is based on a fallacious argument, and that is this. First premise, if Greek documents containing active voice forms of certain allegedly deponent Greek verbs have been found in Greek literature, then this verb is not deponent. Well, that's certainly true. And so then they argue Greek documents containing active voice forms of certain allegedly deponent Greek verbs have not. They denied the antecedent. not been found in Greek literature. We haven't found it, therefore it must be deponent. So that's kind of fallacious. Let me illustrate this. At one time, they argued that the Bible had an historical error in it because it listed the Hittite nation, and they argued, well, we haven't found any evidence that a Hittite nation existed. Since we haven't found the evidence, it didn't exist. That's very fallacious reasoning. It's called denying the antecedent. The fact that they hadn't found it doesn't mean it didn't exist. And that was proven around 1880 or somewhere thereabouts, 1870s. But they found the Hittite nation, and they found evidence of a large nation, in fact. And they've even uncovered their libraries in some of their cities. So they said, the Bible's not there because it mentions the Hittites about 30, 40 times in the Old Testament. Everybody knows they didn't exist. Well, now they found that didn't embarrass them because they're atheists, okay? And anything to discredit the Bible. But they were wrong in their thinking. Right? Any question? Right. So that's the kind of reasoning we have here with this. I think the reasoning is flawed. It contains a logical fallacy. I'm very skeptical of them with this. Are there further questions? Right. So you have this, and you might click on this. You can click on it. Just control, like what you can do to get a control click on it to follow the link. I'm not going to do it right now. It'll take me out of our link to one another.
So, are there any texts in the New Testament that they argue should be deponent based on their?
Yes, there are words. There are whole words that claim are deponent. Okay, let me go through and I have them listed here. And I'll just do this. Deponent right here. Here, they list this word SAL as being deponent. Okay, irregular in future middle and is said to be deponent. Spogleman. Okay. If it has an OMI ending, Omicron, Flu, Alpha Iota ending, then they call it deponent. And so here's another one. So this will be irregular in the future middle. They claim it's deponent. I'm listing what the grammarians say. These grammar books were written before they decided deponent. Doesn't make much sense. And then here's some more information on it. Right. The middle except for deponents. That's Perschlager. So the middle voice except for deponents, it depicts this. That's grammarian. And different words. Oh my. See right here, there's an oh my. There's a form of that oh my. Oh rao is I hear. And so right here, this is this form right here, and it's an oh my. So they call that deponent. Future. Right? So, any question? And of course, our lesson, we'll go back to it now, unless you have further questions.
No, thank you.
I'll go back. I think I started it sharing. Can you see it now? Wow.
No.
No.
Okay. It didn't stop sharing. don't know what it is. Now you can probably see it.
I haven't seen it.
I didn't click every file. All right. They're claiming these are deponent, and when they're given that here, it'll be listed Dunamai, right? And the Dunatai ending, this is Dunamai right here, this ending right here. They're claiming if it ends in my, that it's deponent, see? So that's how to be listed in the lexicon, Dunamai. Okay, call it defective. And they even argue what deponent means. Okay, so genomai also is that I become. For crying out loud, I become can be a middle voice idea very easily, can it? You just think about it. Erkomai, I come, I go, I come or go. Oh, let's just look at some of these verbs they claim are genomai. I'll just pick it out. That's a my ending. So they say it's deponent. I become. Well, that sounds middle all over the place. I become, I'm causing myself to become, I'm becoming. Okay. Decomai, I receive. That sounds middle to me. Okay. I go through, I go. And there's a my ending, and this is oh my ending. That's very easily something you could be doing. Diddle my, I am able. That sounds like middle voice. See, I sit. Well, for crying out loud, wouldn't that sound middle to you? Okay, I think personally, I think some of these are just almost ridiculous that they would. Okay, I thought I had fixed that. It's almost ridiculous to me to think of them as being active voice. They could easily be middle. It makes perfectly good sense to interpret them as middle voices. When I say I sit, yes, I can think of it as being active voice, but I'm causing myself to sit. Okay. Right? Any question there? A lot of these verbs, and every one of them, when I look at them, I can easily see how the middle would dominate. I'm causing myself to sit. I'm causing myself to go right here. And that's all my ending. Apocrino, I answer. Well, I'm causing myself to answer. I'm answering for myself, or I'm doing it for myself. Right? Right? I become. For that, who's causing me to become? I'm causing myself to become. Doing it to myself, or I myself am doing it. So, that's to receive with welcome, actually, is what it means. And if you look it up more thoroughly, that's this limited gloss here. So I think I can make perfectly good sense out of most of them pretty easily. And I don't see how they come up with the idea. I think some of the recent arguments are perfectly reasonable, that they're not deponent, right? That they're actually just middle voices. Any questions there?
So are we going to do the homework for this section then?
It's the homework, but what let's do, let's go ahead and be aware that some are going to argue that it's active voice. And let's just try to look at it from both standpoints. Is that fair enough?
Well, how do you want us to translate?
I'd like for you to be able to discuss it both ways, if you would.
Both ways?
Yeah, because let's look at it and see if you can see how it could easily be middle voice. But you have to make your own decision as to what you're going to go along with the book. Marion Fox is not considered a Greek scholar, okay? It'll be a fake. Okay. My name is not known in the Greek, in the Society of Greek Scholars. Okay, so be aware of that. So let's try to look at it from both vantage points and be aware. I think there's a logical fallacy in the reason. So we're just about to the end of our material. I'll come back to this lesson start here again. I always spend a lot of time on it, but I really think we ought to deal with it, kind of look at it. If you have time, click on that YouTube link and view it. It's about 20 minutes long, though.
Okay.
All right. Okay, any questions? Some say lay aside, it just lays aside the form. Some say it lays it aside, the opponent, Latin the opponent to lay aside here, right here. And they argue, well, what I did it under, I think it was A.T. Robertson said it just lays aside the form. He worded it and had it meaning something different than some of the other ones. And so be aware of that. You can probably download his book free. It's a big rascal. It's like 1,500, 2,000 pages. Like that. It's a big, thick book. But I think it's on the internet, and you can find it. Just download it. I have it electronic form. But I have a copy, printed copy. Had it for a number of years. It's a classic. But some of these other ones also have material. I thought about putting all this pages, about 4, 5, 6 pages out of some of these books in my file here, but I decided I'm not going to take the time to type it in. Sorry about that. Fine.
Okay.
Any questions, fellas? That one's the wrong font. I'm going to change it. All right, there we are. Fine, I'm going to save the file and get out.